I'm starting the timer to see how long it takes me to restore this old painted dresser, so if you want to make your best guess in the comments section before I reveal the answer, now is the time. The timer will only be running while I'm working and does not include dry time or filming time. I found this half-painted Art Deco dresser on Marketplace for $10, and my first thought was, how could this even happen? Well, the price was right, so I brought it home, and now I know what happened. Now, I shouldn't be too surprised. I've seen plenty of painted furniture done with care and respect, and I'm not here to criticize, but the current market does tell the truth. The painted furniture trend is slowly fading, and most vintage collectors are now drawn to pieces that celebrate the natural wood beneath. I've built my channel around uncovering what's hidden under those layers of paint, and over the years I've filled a storage unit full of painted furniture pieces. And at the moment, there's still plenty of painted pieces to be found on Marketplace and in thrift stores in this area. So this is another opportunity to see if I can make this old piece beautiful again, and maybe learn something new in the process. My name is Barry, and it's good to be with you again. Removing the drawers and the pulls took about 7 minutes. Not a bad start, but I'm worried about the time it may take to remove the drawer liners. To use time in my favor, I'll brush on a paint remover to the top of the dresser. This will take about 15 minutes to set up before it's ready to scrape. With the Bakelite drawer pulls and overall design, this dresser appears to be a classic factory-made 1930s or 1940s Art Deco 4-drawer chest of drawers. Maker unknown at the moment because unfortunately the label is missing on the backside, but it's a well-made piece nonetheless and worth saving. I'm only at the 10-minute mark, so I'm hopeful with this project. I'll now apply heat to the liners, and thankfully these were all removed with ease. So what actually happened with this half-painted dresser anyways? Well, the seller told me she purchased it to paint together with her daughter, but quickly realized that the paint job took longer than expected and would require 2 coats. I'm assuming the paint color was to match the existing drawer liners from a previous owner. Now that all the liners have been removed, I can apply the paint remover to the remainder of the drawer fronts, and at the 21-minute mark, I can take a quick break. While scraping with a plastic scraper, I expected the paint to come off easier than it did. I'll do my best to remove as much as possible with the first pass, then reapply a light coat of more paint remover. I never see this as money lost by using more product, but time saved by avoiding more aggressive manual labor. I think the original finish is lacquer, and most of it scraped off with the first pass. I'll scrub what remains with number 2 steel wool, then use Clean Strip's afterwash product to neutralize the chemicals and clean the surface. I did notice a small piece of veneer missing, so I'll need to fix that later. With the drawer fronts stripped and cleaned, I did notice more veneer damage, which is to be expected. And then there was this one loose drawer side that needed to be put back in place. First, I'll scrape the second coat of paint remover off the top of the dresser. I like to use fine brass brushes to remove the paint from the hard-to-reach areas. This is a good time to mention that this won't likely be a museum-quality factory restoration, because there are pieces missing that make that nearly impossible, and I'm okay with that. Art Deco furniture is certainly making a comeback, but at the moment, there isn't much of a demand for it in my area, at least as it compares to the iconic mid-century modern pieces. Simply put, I'm not able to sell these for much of a profit. I've already made significant progress in just under 1 hour, but keep in mind there is often a lot of downtime in between. You know, the other things in life that require attention, and this truly accounts for several hours in the day already. I'll glue the dovetail joints and the side piece with a water-based hide glue, then clamp everything in place while it dries. Since this hide glue is water-based, I can simply wipe off the excess with a warm, damp dishcloth. The drawer fronts and the top of the dresser are all stripped, so I'll turn the dresser on its side to continue applying the paint stripper. As I continue my work throughout the day, I try to be mindful of the flammable items in the workshop, so I'll empty the trash can while I'm waiting. With the dresser on its side, this is also a good time to clean underneath. This is all too common, and there's certainly no judgment on my end, because I'm sure my furniture looks a lot like this in my own home. Also, it's worth mentioning at this stage that this dresser was built well and should certainly last another 75 to 100 years if cared for. The first coat of paint remover worked well on the side of this dresser, but I did find more damage that will need to be addressed. Today I'm a bit nervous about the work that needs to be done. It's 48 degrees Fahrenheit and raining outside. Autumn is certainly upon us here in Wisconsin, adding another level of difficulty to the restoration process. I'm grateful to continue my long-term partnership with Lasfit, making these videos possible. Lasfit makes quality, affordable floor mats and bed liners, as well as other aftermarket products for hundreds of vehicle makes and models. I put a lot of miles on my vehicles, hunting down vintage furniture, and here in Wisconsin, it's important to protect my vehicles from rain, mud, snow, and salt. This can quickly destroy the upholstery in my vehicles, and for me it's becoming more important to find ways to protect my investments. I've been using Lasfit's all-weather floor mats and bed liner for several months, and I love them. Lasfit's mats are precision fit, laser measured for your exact vehicle, and they're made from a tough, flexible TPE material that's not only flexible, but easy to remove when it's time to clean them. A quick rinse and they look brand new again. The anti-skid surface keeps my cargo from moving around during transport, and the soft touch material helps prevent additional scratches and dents to the furniture. Compared to WeatherTech, I found that the Lasfit mats are thicker and feel more durable under my feet. Most importantly, I've noticed less slipping and more control. Lasfit floor mats are often praised for their balance of quality and affordability, making them a strong competitor to the more established WeatherTech brand. Check out the link in the video description, or visit lasfit.com to see if Lasfit offers floor mats or bed liners for your vehicle. You can use code MCM20 for 20% off your purchase, and thank you Lasfit for continuing to support my channel. Well, I finished scraping the other side, and now the last section where I need to remove some of the paint and the old finishes is the front. It covers less surface area, but is often more difficult to work on, depending on the style of ornate trim and feet. need to wait for the last of the paint remover to set up, and part of the restoration process is setting up the right tools for the job, so I'll leave the timer running for this. Here are most of the tools I plan to use to sand this old dresser, in preparation for the new finishes. Removing the paint and lacquer from these detailed areas on the front didn't take as long as I had imagined. I use steel wool, afterwash, shop rags, and some fine brass brushes, and I'm pleased with how this is looking. So I'm ready to let this dry while I begin sanding. Just before sanding, I do need to glue down the loose veneer and spray with an accelerator to help it dry faster. I'll then mix up a 2-part epoxy filler to fill the sections where the veneer is missing completely. I'll mix in some wax wash remover to prevent this from drying too fast while I work. There's no need for perfection during this step. It's just important to apply enough filler so that it stands proud of the surface, because I'll need to sand this back with a hand sanding block in a few moments. If you're ever curious whether an old furniture piece has veneer, it's often easiest to spot the thin layer on the underside of the drawers, where there is no finish. For the first pass, I'll use 150 grit sandpaper with the Surf Prep 3x4 electric sander. This is less aggressive than a standard orbital sander, but I'll need to make sure I keep the sander flat on the surface. Changing the angle ever so slightly could easily cause the sandpaper to burn right through the thin layer of veneer. During the first phase of sanding, I'm able to get a better look at every part of the dresser, and I will fix damage that was overlooked while removing the paint. With straight, narrow grain lines, this species looks like mahogany to me, so I'll use 180 grit sandpaper on the rigid side of a hand sanding block to sand in the direction of the wood grain. A fine sanding sponge will allow me to sand all the edges without causing damage to the veneer. I'll also sand the inside of each drawer, because these will also eventually be sealed, to protect them and also give them a fresh, clean look. Every furniture piece is different regarding the time, effort, and tools required to achieve the desired finish, and I hope to use this project to continue discovering new ways to be more efficient. I decided to stain the drawer fronts as I sanded them, and this should allow them more time to dry as I continue working on the body of the dresser. This time, I chose an oil-based penetrating stain in the color Colonial Maple. This will be a lighter option than the walnut colors that I usually use, but will still give the entire dresser a nice base color. I often wish to just clear coat the natural beauty that I find with the different wood species, but keep in mind there are a lot more unnatural imperfections to hide on a piece of furniture that has absorbed paint. I'll sand the epoxy filler with a hand sanding block until it's even with the surface of the dresser. I determined that the veneer on the sides of the dresser were thick enough to use a more powerful orbital sander, So I'll sand these first with 150 grit sanding discs, then by hand with 180 grit. Around the 3.5 hour mark, I'm feeling good about this project. By hand sanding the detailed areas is where I often spend the most time. It's common to find imperfections in the wood, sometimes natural and sometimes from the milling process, and these are just things that I've learned to embrace. It's also important to sand the inside edges of the dresser, because these areas could be visible depending on the drawer style. Here's perhaps the best example on this dresser of how different wood species were used throughout. We can clearly see a much lighter, solid wood used here for the trim and the decorative pieces. The main reason was often to cut down on the cost of lumber by using a less desirable species for the dresser frame. But contrasting colors were also often intentional on many furniture pieces from the Art Deco era. So as I continue to choose my own colors, I'll keep this contrast but attempt to tone it down a little. It's worth noting that this dresser was not infested with bugs. Many of you know, it's just that time of year when these guys show up everywhere. Well, I lost some time with the detailed sanding, but truthfully, I expected this to take me much longer. I still need to sand the minor scratches, and even with caution, I still sanded through the veneer along the edge. But this isn't too bad, and will be covered up later, along with all the filler from the factory nail holes. When refinishing an old dresser like this one, this is the outcome that's to be expected following the staining. It looks terrible, and you'd likely be disappointed with the results if you just wiped on a clear top coat and called it done. With this one, there's more work to be done, so I'm confident the dye stain in the second coat of sealer will help mask most of these impurities. I'll spray on a coat of this vinyl sealer from Sherwin-Williams and add some lacquer thinner to slow the dry time. This will help seal the entire piece and also provide a base coat to eventually add more color. I'm a bit nervous because it's now 43 degrees Fahrenheit and I need to spray this outside. The workshop is currently around 70 degrees Fahrenheit, so I'll bring these pieces back inside to dry in a more controlled climate. While the first coat of sealer is drying, I'll clean the Bakelite with glass cleaner. Unfortunately, there was one pole missing. I found these poles for $3 each at a local resale shop, and I think with some gold lacquer, they'll add a little visual interest to the dresser. For now, this is the best option I could come up with. With the first coat of sealer on, I can use these powder stains mixed with a little sealer and lacquer thinner to begin color matching all the areas where the epoxy was applied, as well as the original factory nail hole patches. This is a technique that will likely take me years to develop, but I'm slowly learning with each new project. These repairs are mostly at the base of the dresser and will likely never be seen, so if I can match this close enough with this close of a camera shot, I'll be happy with the results. I mixed in some medium walnut dye stain with the second coat of sealer, and this helped blend all the colors of the dresser. Following that step, I sprayed on a clear coat of Finisher's Choice clear flat lacquer and called this project done. This restoration project didn't take as long as some might expect. a little over 8 hours from start to finish. Of course, new lessons were learned, and there are things I would do differently the second time around. But as they say, everything is clear in the rearview mirror. Now I understand I'm in a much different situation than most, choosing to do this work full time. Where the real-time investment comes in is the filming and editing, which can often take me twice as long as the project itself. My business model isn't built around reselling restored furniture for a profit. It's about sharing the process and the stories behind each piece through these videos. That's all made possible by you, the viewers, and by my dedicated sponsors. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And to my faithful viewers, I hope you're doing well. My name is Barry, and thank you for joining me. Goodbye for now.